Hi, welcome to our fourth installment of the walkthrough videos for the BT by BT First Raglan sweater. If you're watching this video, you may already have finished your sweater, in which case congratulations. We're going to go over how to block the sweater. So as you can see, we have bound off both of the sleeves and the hem and woven in all the ends. You can wait to weave in your ends until after blocking, but I usually like to do it beforehand. So we have, for blocking, we want to have a little basin of water and some wool soap. So I've used our Taft Woolen soap here and a towel to roll your sweater in after it's done soaking. You want the schematic from the pattern so that you know what measurements you're blocking your sweater to, some pins, and something to measure with. And then this is super optional, but it's also really helpful. If you have something long and round to stick in the sleeves and on the sides of the sweater, that can help to avoid creases as your sweater dries. So what we're going to do is we're just going to take the whole sweater and just dunk it in the tub of water. You want to push it down while it's in the tub so that all the air bubbles come out. I usually like to kind of turn it over so that the side that was on top is now on the bottom and everything gets all saturated. And then once it stays kind of down in the water, you can let it soak. And you can soak it anywhere between 10 and 30 minutes. I usually like to go for 20 to 30 minutes just to make sure everything is all given its due time. And we're going to come back when that's done. So welcome back. Sweater's been soaking, so now we're ready to take it out. It's going to be very heavy because of all the water in it. I'm going to squeeze it out as much as possible and then have our towel ready to put it onto because we're going to use that to squeeze the excess water out. You don't want to wring it out, but you just want to kind of squeeze it as much as you can. If you're doing this in a bathtub, you can squeeze it on the wall of the bathtub. I usually find that to be helpful. And we're going to lay it out kind of in a simulation of what it will be, but you don't have to worry about being exact right now. It's just, you don't want it to be all squished. Lay it out on the towel. You can use 2 towels if you want. And then roll that towel up in a little burrito. And then just squish it so that all of the water, well, not all of it, most of the water gets soaked into the towel. If you find that you can't push hard enough with your hands, you can also stand on it, just what I like to do at home. And we're going to take our basin and move it, because we will need this whole blocking surface now. I'm going to unroll the towel, and then what we're going to do is we're going to spread out sweater on your blocking surface with the front facing up. And now that we've laid it out, we can kind of shape it to the measurements. Blocking is a really good step for kind of coaxing your fabric into the shape and measurements that you want it to be. If it wasn't quite doing what you wanted before, this is the chance to do it now, because it's a really alchemical process where your fabric just really coheres. So I've got my measuring tape. This blocking board is Jared's, and it is a really beautiful vintage board that has a grid measurement on it as well. And you can use that grid measurement if you have it on your blocking boards. I'm just going to measure the sweater itself with this. So we're going to start with the chest circumference. So for the size I'm making, which is the second size, the total chest circumference is 39.5 inches. So the width of the chest here is just going to be right under 20 inches. And so here we've got, yeah, it's almost exact, so that's great. And then the hem circumference is just smaller than that, it's 38.5. It's going to be just below 19. We've got this. And as I said, this is your opportunity to do what you want with the shaping of the sweater. But you kind of want to make sure that it conforms to a straight line at the bottom so you don't get any weird puckering or anything. And something that's really nice for that is if you have these sort of little pin blocks so that it keeps it in that straight line. I also like to use T-pins, which I probably will on the upper corners of this, but just for right now I want to secure the edge. So that's not going anywhere. And then the body length from the underarm to the hem for this is going to be 11.25 inches for this size if you haven't changed the length at all, and I haven't, so I'm going to go ahead and check. And mine has stretched out a little bit with blocking, so I'm going to sort of coax it down. Yeah. This is an example of that coaxing where you can shape it if it has stretched out at all when you soaked it. Still not right there. Just pull it down one more time. And if your fabric has dried enough that it's a little harder to pat it down flat at this point, it's really helpful to have a spray bottle handy so you can re-wet the fabric as needed, because it's a lot easier to manipulate when it's wet than when it's dry. Okay, so I think that's about where we're going to get with this. So we've still got the good chest circumference for that. So I'm just going to put T-pin into each underarm so that those stay where they are. Now we can move on to the sleeves. Straighten out the sleeves. Before we do that, I actually want to make sure that the neck is the right width. So the neck circumference for this size is 18, so we're going to aim for about 9 inches, although the short rows account for a little bit of a difference on that. So you can either approximate it or measure all the way around. There we go. All right. And then I'm going to secure corners of the collar so that they stay put. And just measure down on the sleeves. So the sleeve length from the underarm to the hem for this size is 12.25. And we're just a little bit long here. Just push that back. Here we are. And with the blouse sleeves that I've done here, you want to kind of create that shape while it's drying so that it can take it when it's done blocking. So I'm kind of going to squeeze the ribbing on the cuff in a little bit and secure that here. And while we're at it, we can make sure that the cuff circumference and the sleeve circumference are good. So the cuff circumference on this size is going to be 9.5. So we've got 4.25 for the width of the sleeve there. And then the sleeve circumference is going to be 15.25. So we're aiming for half of that. 7.75. You're right on. All right. So here, to avoid creasing, I want to put actually one of these little PVC pipes in just all the way along the sleeve. And that doesn't quite sit on the edge, but you can pull it back out like that to at least not have some sort of creasing on the sleeve. And then we're going to do the same with the other sleeve. So we're going to measure the sleeve circumference here, for the width at least, and double it for the circumference. So we've got the right one there, and then the length, going for 12 1/4. So right, just slightly long here. Alright, so we're going to anchor our sleeves, and I skipped the step of putting the PVC pipe in before. I'm not going to do it this time. So we're going to just put a pin on either side of the cuff, kind of smush that cuff in horizontally so that the ribbing stays nice and tight. There you have it. If you want to put extra pins, you're welcome to. You can't ever really put too many pins in a piece that's blocking. But oftentimes with sweaters like this, they're not going to go anywhere while they're drying, unlike with shawls and things like that if you're stretch blocking. So once I've got everything laid out, I kind of want to do a round of patting it, making sure it's flat, so that everything dries really neatly. Perfect. So now we'll just let this dry, and then when it's completely dry, if you have any question, don't take it off the blocking board. Sometimes the top layer can be dry, but the bottom is. In that case, you're welcome to take the pins out and flip it over and let the other side dry. Oftentimes we'll do that. But yeah, now you've got it laid out. You'll just let it dry, and then once it's dry, it's ready to wear. So congratulations on finishing and blocking your sweater. Thanks for going through this with us. Happy knitting.